Welcome back today, guys. Today we're going to be getting into chapter 13 in our textbook. So today we're going to be looking at the growth in the North. Okay, so yesterday we looked at the growth in the South, how the agrarian economy kind of affected the South, slavery. Today we're going to shift our focus to the northern states. Okay, so we're going to look at how the northern states grow during this time period and kind of what their economy is based on. All right, so one of the big things that we first have to talk about is the Industrial Revolution. So during this time period, the Industrial Revolution begins. So before the Industrial Revolution, most goods were manufactured by hand in small shops and homes. The revolution introduced factories that could make goods faster and cheaper. Okay, so during this time in the 1800s, this is where we start to see factories come about. Now, the Industrial Revolution really leads to three changes in American culture, especially in the North. First, new technologies were developed for making goods. We'll look a little bit at those here in a second. People moved from rural areas to cities to work in factories. So we start to see this migration toward cities in the North. And the third one, new types of transportation were developed. Again, we'll look at those here in just a second. So the first stage of the Industrial Revolution focused on textiles. Okay, now when we're talking about textiles, we mean cloth, fabric, clothes, those kinds of things. The Industrial Revolution moved production of textiles, again, like we said earlier, from homes to factories. So instead of people sewing at home, now cloth and clothes are being made in factories. Textile factories ran first on water power, then on steam power. Okay, so you've probably seen pictures or maybe in the movies of the old wheels on the water. Okay, that is how textile factories were first powered. Then they moved to steam power. Factories in the North depended on Southern cotton. Okay, so cotton obviously makes textiles, so Northern factories depended on Southern cotton. And the cotton gin was useful and slaves became more valuable during the Industrial Revolution. Because textiles could be made faster, okay, they could buy more cotton. You know, the cotton gin helped with that, slaves helped with that. Okay, so it's all kind of linked together here. All right, so Eli Whitney, we've already talked about him once with the cotton gin. We get to talk about him again with interchangeable parts. Okay, so before interchangeable parts, goods were made by hand and no two parts were identical. Okay, so with the Industrial Revolution, interchangeable parts became more popular. We could start producing the same part over and over and over again, and they would all come out the exact same. Whitney is the first man credited with using interchangeable parts. He manufactured muskets for the US government that led to the first American mass production. Okay, so most of the stuff that we have today is mass produced. Okay, you can find copies of the same thing over and over and over again. All right, in the 1800s, this is where this first comes. All right. So back to textiles, okay. Samuel Slater moved to America from England and brought his knowledge of English textile mills to America. Again, so this is where textiles are going to be made. He created a textile mill in Rhode Island. And in his mill, workers machine spun cotton in the mill and then sent the thread to the weavers who worked in their homes, okay? So in Slater's factory, basically what they're doing is they're stretching out the cotton and then spinning it into thread. Then the thread would be sent off to weavers who would then weave the thread together to make cloth, okay? This was known as the Rhode Island system, okay? The Rhode Island system, they were only going to spin cotton into thread. They were not going to do any of the weaving. Now, Slater kind of revolutionizes how factories work. He hired entire families to work in his mill, including the children. Okay, so the whole family would work at the mill, not just the dad or the mom. Slater built a community village where his workers lived. Okay, so you can kind of see this in the Northeast. There will be little towns that are centered around the factory. Okay, so they basically build towns around a factory for the people who work there to live. All right, the other textile mill that we looked at, or we're going to look at, is the Lowell Mill. And the Lowell Mill opened in Massachusetts in 1814. The Lowell system manufactured cotton cloth, from raw cotton to finished cloth, all under one roof. Okay, so this is the difference between the Slater system and the Lowell system. Slater system is only going to spin cotton into thread, then they're going to send it off. The Lowell system spins the cotton into thread and then weaves it together into cloth, all under one roof. Okay, so they basically just add the extra step within their factory. Now, Lowell had many young single women between the ages of 15 and 35 working his mill. That's who Lowell used. So instead of hiring families, Lowell would hire young single women to work in his mill. Lowell also used factory communities to control his workers. So you can kind of see it in this picture here. Okay, the factory. These are also kind of dorm rooms where these girls would, or these women would live and then go to work. All right. Early in the 1800s, we also see trade unions start to pop up. So in the 1830s, skilled laborers started to form local labor organizations. These unions organized strikes for carpenters and textile workers to limit long work hours and establish fair wages. Okay, so unions would help these workers get these things that would help them out. All right. The Panic of 1837, however, led to a sharp decrease in the influence of trade unions. Okay, so when people are hurting for money, trade unions aren't very effective. Now, into changes of technology. Okay, water power. Water power replaced horsepower. Okay, so if you look at this top image here, this is a mill. Okay. You can see the wheel here turning as the water is flowing, and then it is moving the millstones here within the factory. Okay, so before they used water power, horses would have to move these those millstones up there. So mills sprang up around rivers in the Northeast. Okay, you can kind of see that where these the first picture of Slater's mill, you can see the river right there. But these rivers had strong enough currents to generate power. Okay, so it wasn't like they were near this little creek that barely runs. Okay, they had to be near a river that was strong enough to generate power. The other change in technology we get is steam power. All right, it was developed for use in factories. Steamboats and railroads would eventually use steam power as well. Steam power was very important for shipping manufactured goods and agricultural products. This bottom one here will show you kind of how a train works. Okay, the steam is going in on either side. This piston is moving the wheels forward. Okay, so those changes in technology help. Now, there are going to be effects of this new technology. In the 1800s, the population shifted from rural areas to urban areas. Okay, we start to see cities getting bigger because of factories hiring people. Okay, so because there was a lot of jobs in factories, people started moving to cities. Obviously, cities with factories grew the fastest. Workers moved from the countryside to cities to work in these factories. Okay, so this is an important part. We start to see people migrate in from the countryside into cities to work in these factories, especially in the north. Okay. Now, immigration. Okay, the 1800s, the early 1800s is big for immigration, especially in the north. Okay, so we have two big groups, the Irish and the Germans. All right, now the Irish had push factors and pull factors. So push factors are pushing a group of people out of a country. Okay, so poverty in Ireland pushed the Irish out of Ireland. A lack of jobs in Ireland was a push factor. And the Irish potato famine was a big push factor for the Irish coming to America. Okay, a lot of the Irish food was based around potatoes. When they lost a lot of potatoes, they started to look at moving to a new place. So they came to America. All right, now there are also pull factors. These are things pulling a group of people into the United States, like stability, safety, and freedom. Okay, jobs, building canals, roads, and railways, and mining. Now we do see the Irish get some of the more manual labor jobs at this time. Okay, the Irish were not looked on fondly. So those are the pull factors. Again, the second big group are the Germans. The Germans are a little more well-liked than the Irish, but they are still immigrants. So there was push factors for them to leave Germany. Religious persecution, poverty, and political unrest from the European Revolution of 1848 are three of the push factors for the Germans. Okay, so they're going to leave Germany because of those reasons. Now, the things pulling them into the United States: freedom, stability, safety, just like the Irish, farming and factory jobs. So you will see the Germans kind of spread out in between the North and the South. The Irish will kind of mainly stay in the North. All right. Now, the impact of this immigration. German and Irish immigrants organized, led, and supported labor unions. Germans changed the educational system by creating kindergartens. So we can all thank the Germans for going to kindergarten. The Irish changed politics in cities by putting working class people in power. Okay. Another effect of this is that a new political party was developed called the Know Nothing Party. They were called this because whenever they were asked questions about their political party, they would say that they know nothing. Okay. So let's get a little bit into transportation. Okay. America's transportation system underwent dramatic changes in the 1800s, again, because of new technology and the Industrial Revolution. All right. So before, there were very few roads, and the ones that did exist were terrible. Okay. So they do not have, paved roads like we are used to today. A lot of stuff was dirt roads. Okay. So in 1817, Congress authorized the building of the National Road. The road was built to promote settlement in the West. Okay. So you can see here in the map how people or this road extends west all the way out here into Illinois. And the National Road allowed people, products, and ideas to move to the West. Okay. Another big change in transportation is the Erie Canal. Canals provided an inexpensive way to move people and products. All right, the Erie Canal is one of the most important canals in the United States. Okay, so a canal is going to link two bodies of water. One of the most famous ones, the Panama Canal, connects the Gulf of Mexico to the Pacific Ocean. Erie Canal is going to do the same thing. Okay, the canal connects Lake Erie in the Midwest to the Hudson River in the Atlantic Ocean. All right, it became a major travel route from Western states to New York City. Okay, so here on the map, Lake Erie is here where you see Buffalo. The Erie Canal runs all the way to the Hudson River. The Hudson River then goes down into New York City and straight out into the Atlantic Ocean. The canal reduced costs to ship raw materials and finished goods between the Midwest and New York. Okay, the steam engine is also big for this. Steam engines created power by burning fuel, again, mainly coal. This allowed factories to be built anywhere and not by a river. Okay, so with the help of the steam engine, factories didn't have to be built on a river. The steamboat was also a product of the steam engine. Steamboats made it easier to ship goods upriver against the current. Okay, so it was more powerful. Steam engines were more powerful, so they could go against the current, making it a lot easier to move up the river. One of the last big changes in transportation are the railroads. Steam engine also led to railroad expansion. Okay, railroads made the United States seem smaller, in quotation marks there. Okay, you could get places a lot faster. People and goods could travel longer distances in a shorter period of time. Okay, so it was kind of like airplanes for us at this time. All right. So that is chapter 13. Okay, mainly looking at the growth in the North and the Industrial Revolution and kind of what comes with the Industrial Revolution. Okay, so that is it for today. If you have any questions, let me know, and we will see y'all next time.